As you are aware, we are gathered here today to deliberate on the underlisted bills referred to the Committee for the Establishment of Federal Institutions in different locations in the country. Having concluded debate on this under a general principle and for further legislative scrutiny by this Honorable Committee, the bills are as follows. 1. A bill for an act to provide for the establishment of Federal University of Technology, Asaba, Delta State. And the second one is a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of Federal College of Education, Kiana, Nasarawa State, HB 439. The two bills are sponsored by the minority leader, Honorable Ilumelu, the man of God as we know him here, and of course, our able friend, Honorable Nalaraba, respectively. As you must have heard or may be aware, the committee's mandate covers largely the oversight of all federal institutions, federal universities, polytechnics, colleges of education, and monotechnics, from where it derives its name, where the remaining jurisdiction include, among others. And in exercise of the committee's mandate of lawmaking, which is one of our constitutional functions as legislators, we deem it appropriate to subject the bills to public scrutiny in order to elicit input from not only relevant ministries, departments, and agencies, but from the general public. We are therefore optimistic that at the end of the exercise, your contribution will go a long way to further enrich the spirit and provision of the bills, which will also enable the committee to do justice to the bill, which is part of our legislative tradition, practice, and procedures of lawmaking, or new or amendment of existing acts, or the establishment of entirely new ones. Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, and invited guests, you will agree with me that it is obvious we are faced with challenges of adequate and quality tertiary education in the country, where each year a lot of our children desiring to acquire tertiary education don't get admission as a result of several factors, among which is allocation of certain number of slots for admission based on quota system, which of course cannot accommodate all candidates, even all the necessary requirements for admission are met. This challenge is partly due to inadequate tertiary institution in the country, which would adequately accommodate the yearly quest for admission by Nigerians. Hence, the ardent need to establish more tertiary institutions in the country to address such recurring challenges. It is gratifying to note that as true representatives of the people, members of the House have been sponsoring bills and motions to correct these anomalies. And these bills, this bill, are part of such effort at establishing more institutions, and if passed into law, will ameliorate the suffering for the quest for tertiary education and improve the effective and efficient operation of not only tertiary institutions, but JAM being the body charged with admission in Nigeria.
These institutions, once established, will hopefully serve to ensure that more of our people have access to education that prepares them to contribute to and benefit from the 21st century knowledge economy. The fact that this hearing is holding today when the National Assembly is on recess and members are presumably away from legislative business emphasizes our belief that education is the silver bullet that solves many of our national problems, and as such always deserves our highest commitment and best efforts. While we seek to create new federal institutions of higher learning, we must not lose sight of the unfortunate fact that too many of the institutions that already exist have not lived up to the expectation of world-class excellence. The reasons for this are many and include financial limitations, failings of policy development and implementation, and the absence of a tertiary education policy plan that reflects current realities, amongst others. However, we must also consider that the statutory foundation of these institutions have also contributed to the dysfunction that causes them to fail to meet their highest potential. As we work on this bill, we have a responsibility to ask ourselves to what extent the establishment status of existing institutions have limited their ability to innovate, including by entering into partnerships that add real value in terms of research and development, governance improvements, among others such. We also have a responsibility to engage as many voices as possible to jointly seek ways we can use the instrument of legislation to improve the foundation upon which we build these institutions. If we do this, we will succeed in creating new centers of higher education that are set off from the onset to meet the high expectation we all rightly have. The importance of today's public hearing is further underscored by the presence of so many critical stakeholders who have come to contribute and to make their voices heard. Mr. Chairman and my honorable colleagues on the committee, I encourage you to take advantage of the presence of this assemblage of well-intentioned citizens, receive, collect, and contemplate on all their contributions, even those that may appear to conflict with pre-existing positions or expectations, so that from the multitude of voices we may forge a common purpose and achieve excellence. The tradition of public hearings exists to allow public voices to influence the legislative policy-making process and improve outcomes. It is a noble tradition, and I am glad that so many of you have gathered to participate in today's edition. I equally just as pleased to have the honor of declaring this hearing open to the glory of God and the service of the Nigerian people.
60 of us. I'm the only one lucky to be voted by the president. Not even voted, we came from the same constituency, the same local government, the same ward, just difference of polling unit. Well, that is personal. The leaders of the House of Representatives and other honorable colleagues, we are indeed honored by your presence and speech. Let me at this juncture especially thank His Excellency Senator Dr. Otto Ifeanyi.
And I knew it took his personal, and I say his personal, real personal intervention to ensure that this program is taking place. This really underscores his commitment to his community, to his state, to Nigeria, and to the sector that is education in general. We salute your commitment, sir, and we pray you continue to sustain this and for all others to emulate. I will quickly, therefore, first.
My respected colleagues that we regard as our bosses, without them we won't be at the leadership level. They put us here where we are seated, and we have ultimate respect and honor for them. The clerk of this great committee, invited guests, let me please adopt other protocols. My speech will be brief, very, very brief, so that you will observe the 2 hours. I wholeheartedly welcome all participants and stakeholders to this auspicious occasion where we are to discuss the establishment of the University of Technology in Asaba, the capital of Delta State, a town I'm so passionate about. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, there is no gainsaying that education is the bedrock of societal development, upon which great nations build their economies. Most developed nations channel substantial amount of their earnings into funding education in line with the recommendations of the United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization known as UNESCO, which says that a minimum of 26% of a country's annual budget and 6% of the gross domestic product, GDP, be invested in funding education. Aware that technology is the modern-day roadmap that leads to the future as it supports the students to be innovative, reflective, as well as critical in creating new models or products. while putting into consideration their environmental and economic conditions. The desire to push for the creation of this university through legislation stems from the need to provide more opportunities and level playing ground for all to gain admission into Nigerian universities and to specialize in technology-related courses. When this university is established, it will be the first and only university of technology in the whole of the South-South region, and the only federal university in Asaba. It is therefore incumbent for us to note that the establishment of this university will help to open the floodgate for technology development and transfer in the South-South geopolitical zone and neighboring states, most especially Anambra State, within the boundaries of the zone and Kogi State as well. The National Assembly, as an arm of government, owes it as a duty, which I'm grateful that even though we're on vacation, the Speaker has graciously deemed it fit to approve that this public hearing be held, to draw the nation's attention to the need for the continuous investment in the areas of technology, as such investment will not only build our economy but enhance our image and standing and place us in a proper state in the committees of nations. The presence of COVID-19 has brought with it the dawn of the reality and importance of technology, and why Nigeria as a country needs to urgently invest massively in technological development. As failure to earlier heed to these warnings have led to the loss of highly gifted Nigerians who, in their quest to seek technological knowledge, migrated to other countries, who have gone on to maximize the benefits of the potentials of our own citizens to our own detriment. The major reasons for the migration of our valued manpower is the lack of adequate university of technology in the country to cater for the need of our citizens. I therefore stand here today, even though I'm seated, to push for the repeat paragraph M of the first schedule of the Federal College of Education Technical at Cap F8, Laws of the Federation Nigeria, 2004, which established the College of Education Technical Asaba, Delta State, and for the reenactment of the Federal University of Technology, Asaba, Delta State, so as to provide students in the state and its environs the opportunity of gaining broad technological knowledge and practices that will equip them with solutions to modern-day challenges, as well as prepare them for technological-related careers in the nearest future. As it were, this is not a fresh start-off. The school is already in existence. Asaba has another. The Delta State University has an annex in Asaba, which I know if federal government applies, that Delta State government will graciously approve, that will also use part of it to take off the university. So I don't need to bore you with all the facilities that are in Federal College of Technology, Federal College of Education Technical Asaba. They are numerous and the environment is friendly. The nearby states, the Brace states, that is Bayelsa, Rivers, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, Edo, and Delta will be most grateful to Nigeria, for they have always contributed to national revenue. As the legislative arm of government, it is time to put words to action. Aside calling for policy reforms of technology, we must play a very active role in encouraging the development of technology and education in Nigeria. It must, however, be within the boundaries and provisions of the Constitution. This setup will cost less to federal government. I repeat, it will cost less in the sense that there are already facilities on ground to take off. I believe this bill is straightforward, proposal that needs to be supported by all well-meaning Nigerians. And let me sincerely thank all of you and Deltans that are here, and even by extension of my brother, my colleague, those from Nasarawa also to support him on his bill that is being sponsored.
The government and people of Delta State, especially the governor of our state, His Excellency Senator Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa, who I represent here. And he is particularly delighted with the subject of this public hearing, that he ensured that the state submitted a memorandum on the matter despite the serious time constraints for submissions made by stakeholders. For him, the initiative is a very patriotic trust for the development of the country at large. Just summarizing our presentation, which we submitted on Monday, 35 copies, the role and benefits of education and technology. Mr. Chairman, it's a known fact that education remains the agent of civilization, and one of the key challenges of development in African countries is the low pace of technological development, adaptation, and transfer. So simply put, the difference between a developed country and a developing country can be tied to the level of education and the use and application of technology. So if as a nation we focus and continue this trend of improving education and technology, it means that the new university will lead to the development of a critical mass of scientists, technologists, and engineers who will become the dominant elite that can act as catalysts for the transformation of the Nigerian nation into a true modern society, just like the Asian tigers did. The minority leader has touched on the catchment areas, and yes, as it stands today, the South-South geopolitical zone doesn't have a federal university of technology. It is proposed that this zone, which comprises of the Brace states and also neighboring states based on proximity, like Anambra and Kogi, like he said, will generally be seen to provide the bulk of the students that would attend this university. Thus, the establishment of the university will significantly reduce students' admission pressure on the universities of Benin, Port Harcourt, Calabar, Uyo, and then Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Awka, which are highly sought-after institutions for technology and engineering-based education within the catchment area. More importantly, it will also boost access to technological education within the area and ease admission frustration amongst youths, thus grossly mitigating criminal tendencies and violent behaviors, including pipeline vandalism, kidnapping, bunkering, armed robbery, and general economic sabotage, and a host of other felonies prevalent in parts of the catchment area. Narrowing it down to Delta State, Mr. Chairman and honorable members, and having identified the role of education and technology / technical education in the development of nations, the administration of Governor Kowa made the development of technical and vocational education one of its cardinal programs. It is on record that since the inception of the administration in 2015, the following have been embarked on. First, a Technical and Vocational Education Board was established in 2015 to supervise and coordinate technical colleges and vocational centers across the state. Between 2015 and 2019, we repositioned the 6 existing technical colleges. Then, very recently, we've established 19 technical colleges in the state, of which 9 of them are already in various stages of completion, having budgeted and approved 13.6 billion naira for that. And lastly was, for purposes of effective coordination, the establishment of a full-fledged Ministry of Technical Education. Therefore, the state has shown deep commitment to the implementation of the 2016 National Policy on Science and Technology Education, which essentially says that every state should have one technical college in a local government area. The direct consequence of this is that the enrollment figures in our technical colleges have gone up from just under 2,500 in the 2014-2015 academic year to about 7,300 now. Mr. Chairman, in terms of the takeoff, we have the facilities. The minority leader has said, so the Federal College of Education Technical is there, and we would be glad to provide that, of course, in conjunction with the federal government, since it's a federal institution. Mr. Chairman and honorable members, the Delta State government will once more like to commend the leadership of the House of Representatives, and in particular, this committee for the consideration of this bill. With the decreasing employment prospects and a rapidly increasing youth population, it will be a great service to Delta State, the states in our catchment area, and the Nigerian nation in general, if the honorable members of this House ratify the establishment of the proposed University of Technology, Asaba.